Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting podcast. I'm Ann Alvarez, parent coach, school counselor, and mother of two. Do you sometimes struggle with your parenting role? Do you notice that sometimes you're repeating patterns that you learned in your own childhood? Maybe you are carrying childhood pain that has not been healed, and you notice that it is showing up in your parenting with your own children. Perhaps you yell or get frustrated easily. Maybe you are directing them or telling them what to do all the time, and you notice that your actions are affecting your relationship with your children. Well, parents, I totally understand this. I came from childhood pain and I learned how to be a relational parent with my children. And I can teach this to you as well. This podcast is all about learning how to heal the childhood pain that we are carrying so that we can foster healthy relationships with our kids. Join us every week for a new show, and we will dive into the healing and the fostering of healthy relationships with our children. Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting podcast and YouTube channel. I'm super excited today because I'm going to talk about a topic that has been coming up a lot in my work with parents. And the topic is your child is not the problem. I think a lot of parents see their children's behavior as there's something going on with them or there's something wrong with them. Maybe they have ADHD, maybe they have autism, maybe they have something, right? And I'm hoping, parents, that I can give you a different way of looking at behavior and what is going on with your child. So let's get into it. First off, parents, we need to know, we need to learn that behavior is communication and it's not defiance. And probably when we were growing up, our behavior was shamed. If we showed emotion, we were not listened to, but it was an indication something was going on with us because we don't behave badly or um, emotionally unless we are struggling with something. And it's the same thing with our children. When our children are going through a struggle, it will come out in behavior first because number one, they don't have the maturity to know why they're upset. And number two, they don't have the words, the vocabulary and experience to be able to express it in a more rational way. That comes with age and that comes with learning. Uh, as they grow older, they will develop that. But in the early years, they don't have the communication, the words to express, and sometimes they don't even really know what is going on. And it's up to us as the adults to help them to figure out the why for their behavior. So if a child is struggling, it doesn't mean that they're broken or there's something wrong with them or that you're failing. It means that they need support. Okay, so we have to separate the child from the behavior. All right, they're experiencing a behavior or they're displaying a behavior, but we have to be careful not to label them based on the behavior. We have to be careful not to say that they're being difficult or dramatic or overly sensitive or lazy. We don't want to identify the behavior with their personality. We want to keep the behavior separate to understand that they're displaying a behavior is communicating a need that they have. And we need to figure out what is that need that needs filling by us. Okay. So when we label, we're shaming them and they are not the problem, right? Something is hard for them in that moment of the behavior, what's happening. And what does it look like? Well, behavior is often a stress response. So if we're angry, it's because maybe we're scared or we're overwhelmed. Because we get overwhelmed, our kids get overwhelmed too. And if they're defiant, might be because they don't feel like they ever have control, that because they're being told what to do all the time. And so we have to look at ourselves as well. Are we overly controlling or overly directing them? If they withdraw, maybe it's too much. It's too much what you're asking, the stimulation, um, all that kind of thing happens. So it is it is up to us to figure out, are they overstimulated? Are they withdrawing because it's too much? Or if they're hyperactive, is why are they dysregulated? What is happening for them? You know, did they not eat well? Did they not sleep well? What is happening with my child? Okay, so when we look at the behavior as communication, communicating something that they need or something that's missing, then we can problem solve it to figure out how do we get our child regulated again, or um, uh, help them with the problem that they're having, the anger, the overwhelm, help them to calm down. Okay. So your child isn't giving you a hard time. They are having a hard time. This is really, really important, parents, that you understand it's not about you. And parents of childhood pain, I know this because I'm a parent of childhood pain. Often we personalize our children's behavior, but it is never about us. It is about them, their struggle, what's going on for them. It's not they're disrespecting us. It's not they're trying to get back at us. It's not they're trying to pull the wool over eyes. No, 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 no. Kids are not that deceptive or manipulative, okay? Um, they're having a hard time, and we need to see it as, how do we help them during this time of struggle? And we ask, what happened to my child? Not what's wrong with them. What happened, or what is happening? What are the stressors that my child might be going through? Has there been a change, a loss? Is there pressure at school? Are they getting a sensory overload? Have they not had enough sleep? Are the expectations developmentally appropriate? Okay, parents, I'm just going to say, toddler and teenage years, you have to expect certain things, okay? There is a defiance, an establishing of wanting control. It is totally normal and part of their development. And sometimes our kids, like especially our teenagers, I have a teenager right now, and they are very forgetful, but it's not really their fault. In the stage of development with teenagers, there is an overactive, we say amygdala, right? The the part of the brain that is their survival, emotion based, uh, highly sensitive, um, overthinking. That part of the brain is developing quicker than the um, prefrontal cortex, which is the logical part of the brain, right? The mature part of the brain. So if we understand this is part of their development, they're overly getting upset, or they can be moody, or they can be forgetful. If we understand that about our teenager, then we know it's not their fault and they're not trying to be difficult, but instead they are going through this stage of development. And what do they need from us? They need us to be patient. They need us to give them chances. They need us to listen when they're going through emotional struggle, right? These are the things that our teens need from us because of a difficult stage, really, in their development. An important stage, but a difficult stage in their development. So when we can shift the way we think about what our children are displaying in their behavior, if we can shift it to is part of their development, or there's a need that they have that I have to give them, or I can help them with. Um, this is not forever. They're just going through a hard time right now. Uh, if we can shift that and not be offended by their behavior, then we can help them better. It's when we overreact and get upset and make it about us and think they're being disrespectful, that actually doesn't help our children. So we have to reframe it in our minds that it is about my child. My child is going through a stage of development where there is some struggle emotionally. They're very sensitive, or they want control. They don't feel like they have control. Whatever it is, once we pinpoint that need that they have, maybe more control, maybe less stimulation, um, maybe more rest. Once we determine what they need, then we can give that to them, and then they can regulate much faster than if we overreact, because the overreacting makes the dysregulation worse. Okay, because now you're overreacting, you're dysregulated. So that makes them more dysregulated. Whereas when we're calm and we're modeling regulation, then our kids are picking up on that energy and they want to be regulated. Okay, so when we shift from control to connection and to help, how can I help you? What's happening? Do you want to tell me about it? When we try to understand them and their struggle, that actually builds connection and actually helps them to process what they're going through, the challenge that they're going through. And children really, really reflect their emotional environments. So if there's a lot of chaos going on at home, if you and your spouse are fighting all the time, if there's tension between grandparents, like in multi-generational families, or if there's financial stress and you're stressed, if the parents are stressed, our children feel it. Our children feel our emotions. And so we have to start from the inside out. We have to monitor how we're feeling about ourselves and how we're managing our own stress so that we can help our kids. Because when we're not managing our stress, then we're actually a poor role models for our kids, because we can't help them manage their stress if we're not managing our own stress, if we're not regulated. Okay. And so it doesn't matter like what we say, our kids will see how we're behaving and what we're doing and the energy that we're bringing into our homes. And they will feel it and they will absorb it and it'll come out in their behavior. Okay. So I always say to parents, parent from the inside out, look at yourself first. Uh, because if there's something going on with you, then probably that is affecting the behavior of your children. And they often act out whatever adults are suppressing. So, like I said, you may come home and you are asking them about the day like everything is normal, but our kids are highly attuned to us. So if we are going through stress, most likely they will feel it. If we have sadness, most likely they will feel it, even though we're trying not to show it to them. So that's why we have to really monitor, um, how am I feeling about my life? You ask yourself this. How do I make things better so I can be a better parent? And so that when I come home, my kids have the best of me. That's really, really important. Okay. So we deal with parental stress. We look at conflict avoidance. So sometimes parents just are very uncomfortable when their children are displaying emotion. And a lot of it has to do with the way we were brought up. Like if we were brought up where emotions were not validated, or we were not allowed to express anger, sadness, um, or we were given the messaging that just get over it, stop worrying about it, or that's not a big issue. If our feelings were dismissed, then we're going to have trouble, most likely, when our children display emotion. But honestly, the healthy thing is to express it. The healthy thing is to express emotion, and we have to get comfortable in being uncomfortable. We have to get comfortable with all the range of emotions with our kids because it is part of being human to have anger, to have frustration, to be sad sometimes, right? And so if we don't allow our children to express how they truly feel about things, then they will not be in tune with their own emotions. They will be like people pleasing. They will be monitoring how other people see them instead of developing themselves, who they are, right? That they're changing themselves to please other people. That's not healthy. Okay. And it also causes like perfectionism because like now I'm not good enough. Um, because people are saying that I should just not show anger, not be mad about things, not be sad about things. And maybe I'm not good enough. That's the messaging our kids have based on the way we respond to their behavior. They don't blame their parents. They only blame themselves. And so they see themselves as flawed when we criticize or minimize their feelings and are uncomfortable with their behavior. So we have to monitor, how am I coming off about their behavior? Am I getting tense about it? Am I getting angry about it? Did I let my child express how he or she truly felt? Was I okay to sit in the crying and the temper tantrum? Could I just sit there and be calm and just be there? Because that is what my child needs. So it is a total reframe of perhaps the way you grew up, but it is really the healthy way. It is the way to raise emotionally healthy kids so that they can express. Um, and we also make sure that our children are regulated before we offer solutions, all right, before we problem solve. And I always say, like, relational parenting is about collaborating, working with your child in the problem solving, not directing, not telling them this is what's going to solve the problem, but talking to your child about what would help. Actually, it builds confidence. When someone asks you what would help, what do you think would make things better? Like now you're involved in the process. And the message from that our children receive is, Mom and Dad believe that I can solve this. Mom and Dad believe that I can think about how to make it better. And that actually really builds a lot of confidence in our kids. And then we always have to I know we're not perfect. We're not going to be perfect. But if we can be calm most of the time, if we can calm ourselves down before we respond to our children, it actually helps our kids to get regulated. So our child's not the problem. There are things that we can do to help their behavior, to help them regulate again, to help them feel seen, heard, and supported. There are things we can do to make things better for our children. So we're going to pause before we, get upset. We're going to pause and we're going to sit with the discomfort of their sadness or anger. Let them express, except the only time I say parents is you have to step in if they're being unsafe, like hurting a sibling or throwing things and breaking things. We do have to step in, but we do have to have boundaries with behavior when it is affecting the home or the family. But otherwise, we let them express how they're truly feeling. We listen. We let them get it out. we let them try and regulate themselves. Kids have an amazing ability to regulate. I know this from my own children and also from teaching. When I have students that are really, really upset, and I just give them the moment to be upset. I give them the time to be upset. Then after a little while, they actually regulate. It doesn't go on and on and on. Parents, temper tantrums do not go on and on and on. They really are short in the lifetime of our children. So if we can sit with the uncomfortableness of them expressing their emotions, then and pause, let them express. You may notice that they will self-regulate. Most times that they will self-regulate. They will get themselves back to a calm state. And then when that happens, then you can talk and invite problem solving with your child. So you were upset about this, the friendship issue at school. What do you think would help? What do you think is gonna work so that you don't get upset? Because I don't like to see you upset about this, honey. I want you to feel good when you go to school and feel good with your friends. So what's gonna be helpful for you? Do you see how that conversation feels good instead of someone getting mad at you because you expressed that there's a friendship issue at school, right? That feels safe. That's like mom, dad are on my side and helping me work through this issue that I'm having at school. And when a child is triggering you, it has to do with you. Like, you have to ask yourself, parents, especially like if you have gone through childhood pain, and many of us have gone through childhood pain at various degrees, right? Maybe we were ignored or punished or not listened to, or parentified, like got a lot of responsibility, or our parents were fearful. Like, these are all childhood pain things that we maybe had experienced in our childhood. And so when we have children and they display things that we were not allowed to display, then we might be triggered because now we're back to that 6-year-old that wasn't listened to, or we're back to that 7-year-old that didn't feel respected, because my parents didn't respect my wishes, didn't listen to me. And so when our children are not listening to us, it re-triggers that experience, that pain that we had as kids. So that's why we have to be very self-reflective. If we want to be effective parents, we have to say, why does that make me so angry? Why does that upset me so much? And when you stop and you analyze it and you say, when did I feel this way? Okay, what am I feeling? I'm feeling disrespected. Why am I feeling disrespected by my child? Maybe I remember now when I was 5, my mom didn't listen to me when I told her that I wanted to wear the red dress and she made me wear the pink one. So I felt disrespected. Okay, so there you're going back to understand why you are being triggered. Okay. And then we can stop the trigger. We can say, okay, hold on, I'm not that 6-year-old anymore. I do have choices now. And this is about my child. My child is not disrespecting me. My child is going through a struggle and needs support. And then when you reframe it that way, then that minimizes or lessens your response to their behavior. And you want to respond in healthy ways with your children because you are always modeling what a healthy relationship looks like. And a healthy relationship is about being seen, heard, and supported. So if you are not seeing your child, if you are like, they're disrespecting me and I'm not talking to them and I'm going to ignore them, that's actually not healthy. That is not a healthy relationship. And you do not want to model that because that is what they're going to attract with their relationships with other people as adults. Okay. So we have to be non-reactive and we have to be positively responsive to them, focusing on what is going to help them. So our child's job is to develop, right? To learn. They don't know these things. They don't know how to handle their emotions. They don't know when they're experiencing sadness that it's temporary and they can get over it. They don't know that um, how to build relationship with friends. They don't know these things. And they're not trying to do things to upset you. They're not trying to make your life miserable. They are learning. Okay? They we want to normalize the messiness of learning. We want to normalize emotional swings in our kids because it happens. It can happen with us too as adults. We want to normalize regression. We're not always on an upward hill. Sometimes we fall back a little because we don't feel as good today, or we're struggling because something bad happened at school, like something bad happened at work. So I'm having a harder time today dealing with it. And we have to normalize that they are going to test boundaries with us. But we are the gatekeepers of boundaries, and we can do it in a loving, respectful way. We do not have to do it in a controlling, punitive way, but we can establish boundaries, like I said, when they're being unsafe. You know, you're being unsafe right now. I know you're angry. I know you're mad at your brother, but you can't hit your brother. We're a family, and no one gets harmed in the family. Now you're providing an environment of safety, right, in your home. So what you can do, son or daughter, is you can go and calm down first, and then we'll talk about what's happened. Okay, something like that. Um, I want you to remind you, parents, that children don't misbehave to manipulate. I know a lot of parents say that to me. They're like, "Oh, I think they're trying to just annoy me." No, 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 no. This is your childhood pain talking. Children are not trying to make your life miserable or manipulate you. They misbehave because they are trying to survive and they're trying to adapt. Okay, maybe the expectations are too much. Maybe they're going through a struggle. Maybe you're overly controlling and they don't know how to deal with that. But their misbehavior is not manipulation. It's information for us, right? And it is a stress response. They are being stressed, and it could most likely come from us. Maybe it comes from externally, but the way we handle it is making it worse. So if we can just reframe, our children are not born manipulators, and they're not trying to make our lives miserable, but they're going through struggle, and they're not going to be perfect. And we have to help them in all those times, in all the stages of their lives. All right. And then what I want to talk about is repair. Because I said, we're not going to be perfect. I'm not a perfect parent. I have made many mistakes, especially with my oldest, because I was a relational parent with my oldest, but I still fell into old habits of controlling the things that I learned as a child from the way my parents parented me was showing up in the raising, especially with my oldest. And so I had to learn not to be so controlling and directive because it wasn't healthy. And it was actually breaking relationship with my oldest son and I. Because I noticed he became a little like he's always been a good kid, but he had moments of defiance. And then that's when I had to stop and say, hold on, where is this defiance coming from? And maybe it's coming from you. And I did learn that it was because I was overly directive and telling him what to do. And he wanted a voice. And I wasn't giving him that. Why? Because I didn't have a voice as a kid, so I didn't know. But then when I learned, and he actually told me, this is the thing about our children will teach us how to be relational, will teach us how to be healthy. It wasn't until he told me that, Mom, I really wanted to wear that shirt, and you were insisting that I don't. That was a light bulb moment where I realized that I was too directive and too controlling. Like, what does it matter if he wears that shirt with a hole? Who cares? Right? It's about my child feeling like he has some power, some control. We cannot take all the power away from our kids, right? It's not healthy. Nobody wants to be in a powerless relationship. And so we have to give them some autonomy and some power. We cannot be directing them with everything. Okay, it's really, really unhealthy. All right. So if you lose your patience, if you're overly controlling or directive, um, then you can repair the relationship. The relationship can always be repaired, but you have to be humble enough in your parenting to say, okay, I'm going to listen to my child and I'm going to say sorry. I'm going to listen to my child and I'm going to understand, you know, that is not the way that I should be with him or her. Okay. So, and apologizing, so good for a relationship because apologizing indicates that you want the relationship to be good. And our kids feel safe then. The kids feel safe when we apologize because now they can make mistakes and apologize. They don't have to be perfect because we're not perfect. So they don't feel like they have to be perfect. We take away the pressure and we also model that relationship can be repaired. Okay, because no one's going to be perfect. No one. So you can say things like, I was overwhelmed. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right, son. I should have just let you wear that shirt. It wasn't a big deal. I apologize. I know I didn't listen to what you wanted. I apologize for that. All right. That is how we repair relationship. Okay. Um, so just to know that asking for help, being humble, getting support, um, and not labeling, but getting help for our children is is totally fine. It's totally great. So we can, as our children are moving through these different stages, we can get help and we can get support and we can learn ways to help them. Okay, so we don't fix our children, but we support their nervous systems, right? Give them support so they can regulate, feel calm, feel good in their homes. And we need to remember that our child is not the problem, that they are the message. When we listen instead of labeling them, and we don't just focus on the behavior, we don't just try to change their behavior, but we try to understand them and give them what they need. That is what changes their lives. And actually, that is what helps us to make a bigger impact on them. So parents, I hope this helped you a lot to understand a little bit more about our kids and that they are not the problem and that there are things we can do as parents. I hope that I gave you some tips to empower you on ways to deal with the behavior, so healthy ways, so that you can give support to your children. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Thank you, parents, for joining the show today. If this show blessed you, changed you, or helped you in any way, I would appreciate a Google review or a review on my podcast. And I would love you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Masterful Parenting so we can get the word out to more parents about relational parenting. Thank you so much, parents, and we will see you next time. Take
Audio
care,
Jungle.
everybody.